Welcome to The Jury's Still Out, a show highlighting and discussing all things having to do with law, trials, and juries. Your host is Mary Griffiths, a litigation consulting expert who has overseen thousands of cases in state and federal courts, and is a jury correspondent to discuss trial matters and media strategy as it pertains to jury selection and courtroom performance. This is The Jury's Still Out.
Welcome back to The Jury's Still Out, where we talk about all things trial, juries, and law. Today, we're going to kind of dig deep into the legal bucket and discuss a topic about mentoring, especially female mentoring. I'm really excited to have my next guest on. She is corporate counsel for Toyota of North America, and more importantly, she is a huge advocate of mentoring. Please welcome to the show, Mey Ortiz. Mey, welcome.
Yeah, thanks so much. I'm excited to be here.
I mean, we must be on the same mindset that we have the same color. This was not planned. This was not at all. She walked in and we're like, all right, we're in the same color. Awesome.
Just means we're really connected.
Very connected. and you look fabulous in the magenta. I mean, seriously. So let's kind of dig deep about mentoring, because I know I see you on social media and I watch the articles that you publish, and I know that this is something that's very important to you. In fact, I think you label yourself as a mentor enthusiast. So in your mind, what do you think is a good skill set to be an effective mentor?
I think that's a hard question because I think mentoring can look different for different people. Mm-hmm. But if I were to think about the fundamentals, it would definitely be listening, empathy, confidentiality, right? Because you're entrusted with people's stories and lives, but also candor, right? It doesn't do anyone any good if you're not going to be willing to do some truth telling.
Right. You know, the listening part, I mean, as lawyers and litigators, I know it's one of the things that I tell my lawyers when they're prepping for voir dire. You can't almost say this enough, listen more, talk less. But I think maybe something about the legal field, we're so used to talking and telling each other our opinions that just that component of just listening is so critical. Do you think that mentoring should be more on a personal development level, or do you see it more as a professional development?
I think it really depends on what the mentee needs, right? I don't think there's a one-size-fits-all mentoring. There are different types of mentor, right? You might have a mentor that is a super connector. You might have a mentor who is really experienced in particular craft, right? About I really need some help with business development, or I really need some help with brief writing. You might have a mentor who is more like a sponsor, who is going to use their own political capital and social capital to help advocate for you. So there's a wide range of roles that mentors can play.
So would you think that mentoring is more of like being a teacher, a cheerleader, or how would you, in your mind, sort of look at what you do for others?
Yeah, I think a huge part of perhaps why I'm so passionate about mentoring is the calling I feel about demystifying it. Okay. That there's a one-size-fits-all, that there's a certain way to do it, or there's certain topics you have to mentor about, and even the way you do it. Even to your question about whether it's professional or business, or it really should come down to what do you need? And who is a good fit to help teach you, going back to your question, teach you or show you. Again, really very, I don't know, I just think it comes down to one size doesn't fit all.
Right. So on those lines, do you think that you should have sort of multiple mentors? Somebody once told me when I was first starting out, have a mentor for where you are and then have a mentor for where you want to be. So you're trying to find somebody who can guide you right now through what you're going through, but also kind of keep a forward thought to, this is where I'd like to be, so I want to start talking with folks who are already there. Do you have an approach to that?
Yeah, I mean, personally, I feel like you can have multiple mentors at different times, right? And for different purposes. And that mentoring, it can be a long ongoing relationship, which is more a traditional format that people are familiar with.
Right.
But mentoring can be one-off, one-on-one. Like I remember specifically, personally, I was like, oh, do I want to go in-house or I'm about to make shareholder? You know, I want to call someone specific who's faced that situation or made that decision.
Right.
Right. I do think personally, you should have a mentor, you know, at your firm or at your company and someone outside.
Yeah.
I think it really comes down to you want really a diversity of thought to really help guide you.
That's a great point about the confidentiality, because that you raised earlier. Having somebody inside the firm as a mentor is great, but what if the problems that you're facing are within the firm per se, or within the company in which you're at? So you want that external influence to kind of weigh where you are, right?
Right. I mean, if you're thinking about leaving your firm, it would be really awkward to go to someone inside.
By the way, right. Yeah.
So, yeah. But at the same time, you don't want to ignore relationships or mentors inside the firm, because if you do, you know, as a young lawyer perspective back in the day, if you did want to make shareholder, you wanted to know and have someone advise you. You need to work for these people. You need to work on this type of work. You need to diversify your skill set, whatever that is. So that's why you really should have more than one mentor.
Yeah. Do you think that there is, well, let's talk about like, how do you mentor specifically? Because mentoring is a lot about personalities, right? You know, like you're attracted to certain personality types and you may have more of on the same page about certain things. And yet you could probably learn a lot from somebody who's not necessarily just like you. So do you prefer mentoring on a social media platform? Do you prefer mentoring in person? Do you prefer mentoring on the phone? Like, what would be your like first approach to it, of how you would approach a new mentee or taking somebody on to help?
Yeah, I think that's really a question, because I think it depends on where you are in your mentoring relationship. So for me personally, I do like to have a one-on-one, you know, so pre-COVID times, that was like a lunch usually to get to know someone, to see if there's chemistry. Because like you said, there has to be some type of connection, right? That you as a mentor, you want to invest in someone. And then from a mentee perspective, can this mentor help me? Right. So it's almost like you want to have that one-on-one to set it off. But then after that, sorry, be really, really honest. Ain't nobody got time for one-on-ones all the time.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
We're busy.
Right.
So depending on whatever that question is or that need, it might be a phone call, right? And quite frankly, maybe a phone call so I can get my steps in outside while I'm talking to you.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah.
You want to multitask. A lot of times it could be a text, you know? Now, obviously, that's not for the really deeper, complex, like, should I leave or should I stay or should I, you know, I mean, obviously not for that. But sometimes I'm going to a function, dress A or dress B.
Yeah.
Right? So that type of like on the spot mentoring. And I really love using social media. I think it's really efficient. I use a particular app, not that I don't own stock in this app or anything. But I use this Marco Polo app where you can leave video messages. So my mentee can leave me a message, like I'm grappling with this. And then my own time, when giving the kids a bath, right, I can just, this is my response. And it's a conversation back and forth, but obviously asynchronous.
Well, and my daughter has that app and kind of got me hooked onto it. And I was like, okay, this is perfect, because exactly what you said, time management wise, I can watch it whenever I can and do all of that. So during the pandemic, I think you and I talked about earlier, there's so many plates that are spinning and were spinning for working women, whether it's you were being a teacher all of a sudden, you were having to work. And, you know, I think I told you the story that I literally looked at my computer and it took me 47 minutes to finish an email during the time that I was teaching last year. And I mean, I don't think I was that good of a teacher. You know, I was like, okay, new plate. How does one kind of keep, because let's face it, the mentoring sort of fell off. You just had too much to do. How can we, as people who want to help others, especially other women, how can we include this on our to-do list without feeling like you're overwhelmed? It's so much.
Yeah.
You know, it's tough.
Yeah.
It just was really tough.
I have a couple of kind of responses to that. First, again, the demystification of mentoring, right? It does not have to be this traditional we meet once a month or every other month and have long, hour-long sessions. It could be,
right,
but it doesn't have to be. And it doesn't need to be, quite frankly, right? So when you are giving a bath to your children and,
right,
responding to a Marco Polo message, that's mentoring, right? When you answer a text message, dress A or dress B, or what should I do? That's mentoring. It can be that long-standing relationship,
right,
or it could be a one-off.
Yeah.
But I have 20 minutes of your time. I just want to hear your story of how you got to where you are. That's mentoring,
right,
right? When a friend pulls you, out from a meeting and say, hey, you were really self-deprecating. You don't need to be. You're fabulous. That's mentoring, right? So if we demystify that it's this big, complicated, deep thing, I think it helps. I think the second thing is that it doesn't have to be perfect.
Yeah.
Don't let the perfect be the enemy of good. So then whatever you can give, that's doing something, right? Those little small things matter. I think that's really important.
Right.
And then a practical thing is I'm a scheduler. I know that doesn't work for everybody, but I'm a scheduler. So my technique is I do a mentoring Monday. I schedule 30 minutes a week, and that's my time either to talk to someone, read articles about mentoring, send articles, send my text messages, do my little videos. That's my 30 minutes.
Yeah.
And I have a little, calendar reminder. And you know what? If I'm busy, right, you snooze it.
Yeah.
And it can be tomorrow, right? But because it's calendared, it is going to be more likely that I'll do something in that month if it's a really busy month.
Right. And that's a great tip, is just to make sure that it stays on. Things can fall off, but if you have like a certain time that you want to make sure that you do it, chances are you're going to do it, type deal.
Yeah.
Did you ever find yourself in a position where you felt it was time to leave a particular mentor relationship?
Yeah, I think that's a huge part as well. Like, oh my gosh, I have to break up with a mentor.
Right.
So awkward.
It's like a Seinfeld episode. Right. Yeah.
But I think naturally, if it doesn't work for anymore, I think relationships will just naturally fall off, right?
Yeah.
A huge part of what I think is a lot of times, quite frankly, the mentee drives the relationship in the first place.
Okay.
Right. So if you're the person who needs help, you're the person who should be trying to get time on your mentor's calendar, etc.
Right.
And then if you don't need that time anymore, don't. And I think it will naturally fall off. I also think that, as a mentor, if I've helped you and you don't need my help anymore, cool. So hopefully you can take that and you can pay it forward and mentor someone else. And then I have room to mentor maybe a newbie or someone else who I can really be more impactful. I don't think there should be any like shame or guilt or anything about that.
Right. Right. And that's interesting, because I've heard some other people have a little bit of maybe guilt, maybe, I don't think this is quite working out, but are afraid to leave that type of, environment or relationship. And yet that could be such a time suckage that you kind of say, maybe I'm not the best mentor for you, or you've learned, I've taught all I can teach you type thing.
Yeah. I don't know. It shouldn't be like, I know I've seen it too. Like, it's not a marriage. I mean, it has to be monogamous. You should have lots of mentors.
Right.
And if you don't need the help, again, my thing when I ask my mentees to just pay it forward. But, and quite frankly, if you need to have that conversation and be like, hey, I think, this is what we've gone over. This is hopefully how I helped you. I don't know if there's anything else, but I'm here if you need. So maybe it's more of a like, call me if you need, but otherwise we're good.
Right. Do you think in the legal, we're both lawyers, and in the legal relationship or in the legal industry, is there something about our industry that may not foster the mentor bond as say maybe, architects or interior designers or you name it, because of the nature of what we do? Do you think it allows for sustaining and maintaining mentor relationships?
I think it does, but I do think it takes some intentionality and kind of like stepping back from the big picture, because as you know it, when you jump from fire to fire or helping to solve clients, problem to problem, when you're in the weeds, it's hard to kind of step back and look at the bigger picture of what you want your legacy to be, right? Or having part of that legacy be paying it forward in our profession. But right, I mean, to answer your question directly, probably our time constraints, billing constraints,
right.
For those in private practice, right, billing, business development, and then you have your family. I understand there's a lot of competing interests that might make it harder. At the same time, I think it's a part of paying it forward and consider the profession if we don't help, right? If we don't pass on, you know, what we learn. And maybe if we think about it, we probably had a mentor or two along the way that brought us here. Right. I know as a mentee, I always felt like, gosh, how can I pay these mentors back? I don't have anything to give or to offer. And maybe it isn't about paying back, but again, paying it forward. And I think another part of it is, as lawyers, maybe it's no secret that we can be type A and perfectionists. And if I can't go big or go home, I'm not gonna, you know, do it. It has to be perfect. It has to look a certain way. And if we can let go of that a little bit, I think that would be helpful.
And maybe even to kind of go to your point of, I'd love to hear about certain relationships or things that you learned from your mentors. But before we go into that, I think there's something that you said that sort of struck a chord with me. I know when I was first starting in my business, I had some people who were mentors, but you develop that personal relationship and you're not afraid to show the other side of you. You're not just a litigator. You're not just a jury consultant, or you're not just a mom. I mean, there's many components to you. And I think sometimes people are like, well, I can't show them that underbelly or whatever. And that takes away from the relationship in some ways. You're so much more than just this one hat that you're wearing. So along these lines, what have you learned from some really good mentors that you try to pay forward to people who you're talking with?
I think what I've learned from my mentors, you know, is first, your word is your bond. That's really important, right? As lawyers, our credibility is everything. I've learned that perfect sometimes is the enemy of good. And I think, you know, maybe not what I've learned from one mentor, but just being a mentoring enthusiast is how we learn by our failures and that others learn through our failures too, right? Instead of having to feel like you have to put on a certain facade and a certain, I don't know, mask, if you will. People are moved by authenticity, right? I mean, for a long time, I remember I had a conversation with one of my women mentors, and I was like, I don't know how you did it all. You did this, you did this, this. She was like, I had a lot of help. But I wouldn't have known if I had not the conversation, because on this side of it, you look like, you know, mom, lawyer, success, PTA, president. I mean, you're doing it all. And it kind of makes it impossible for a mentee to think they can do it too. Until you have that conversation. It's like, oh, I have a nanny, I have a housekeeper, I have, right? And I think that is powerful, that we are not perfect. And that we all learn from our failures.
Well, the authenticity is so huge, as like coming from a jury level. You know, we always sit there and tell our clients, when you're coming from the heart, and sometimes from lawyers, it's kind of hard to go back to that. Yes, analytical, all of that good stuff, and you're advocating for your client, but people have a good nose for sniffing out genuineness. It's the same thing in a mentor relationship. Like what you're saying, nobody can be doing all of these things without having assistance. And what I've seen in social media is that sometimes it's like we're projecting out all of these great things. But, you know, what's the reality? Reality is that you may be up at 3 a.m. working on your brief, doing some stuff. And when you're at carpool the next day, you're like, oh, you know, I mean, that's exactly the reality. But telling people that, I think that gains more just of a confidence between a mentor-mentee, of just saying, look, just like what your mentor told you, there's a lot of artificial here. Let me tell you the real. Let me tell you the genuine. This is how it really is. Was there some mistakes or some things that you learned, as you stated, from their mistakes? You can learn just as much. Let's go to your life in particular. Have you learned something huge, like as a mistake, that you now help tell other people, hey, big stop sign, if I can kind of help you not fall into the same trap I did, maybe I'm paying it forward. Is there something that you help tell your mentees, watch out for this, or be careful about that?
Yeah. I think, well, a lesson I learned as a mentor is to be really clear about setting what that relationship is about. Mm-hmm. And I call it a failure, even though I don't know that I had any control over it, but I was matched up with a mentee through a formal program in the local bar association. And I didn't know that she expected me to find her a job. Like, that was her expectation.
Oh, wow.
I didn't know that. And notwithstanding whether it's a realistic expectation or not, we never talked about it. She ended up leaving Dallas. And then when she left, she was just kind of like, thanks for nothing, because you didn't help me find a job. I have to leave. And I felt terrible. I mean, who wants to be a mentor that failed someone? So I think early on, setting expectations. You know, I love that you reached out to me. There must be a reason why you reached out to me. What do you think I can help you with? So you can be really clear about what that is, and just really be clear about expectations. So as a mentor, cannot communicate enough. Right. You know, as a mentee, I think my biggest mistake was really not taking advantage of mentoring early. Maybe that's why I'm such an enthusiast. I felt like, oh, I can't bother them. They're so busy. But, you know, the old adage of the squeaky wheel, you know, gets the oil. If you're not brave enough to ask those questions, then you have to learn trial and error the hard way. Right. So I think that's my biggest mistake as a mentee.
So somebody actually thought that you were going to try to get them a job. And that was part of your responsibility. I mean, that's a huge lesson for us all, that we need to formulate the boundaries pretty early on. This is what I can help you with. And this is what I don't necessarily think is my responsibility to help you with. But if something comes my way, I'd be happy to pass it on, type thing. Yeah.
But when you think about it as a young lawyer, again, those are usually who I mentor. You're a law student. No one's explained that to you, right? So maybe even though we as lawyers and mentors, it makes a lot of sense that could not possibly be a plausible, you know, expectation. But if you don't know what you don't know, that is very much what your expectation was, and you're greatly disappointed.
May, I'm gonna need a job in T-minus 48 hours. So how do you you said the Bar Association is a good reference point to help formulate or at least people who may be looking for a mentor. What are some other, is there particular websites or is there any social media that if you are in the legal industry, especially, and I don't want to just say young lawyers, because I know a lot of people are looking for help, especially in everything that we've gone through this past, year and couple months. Is there a place a resource where people can look to try to gain maybe a mentor that you found viable?
Yeah. I mean, organically, again, it a lot of times can be where you work, right? So it could be at your firm. I'm sure there's a mentoring type program at most firms. At Toyota, we have formal programs. So that aside, and local bar associations aside, I found social media to be a great place, specifically LinkedIn. As a great place to make those connections. There is actually a website, Mentor in Law, that is founded by Nissa Chopra. She is a tech lawyer at Microsoft, and her passion is mentoring as well. So she's created a website of resources and newsletters with books to read, podcasts to listen to. I mean, it's a wealth of knowledge. I have another friend that I met through LinkedIn. Again, you say friend loosely because how would we have met people otherwise, right? But she developed an app called, and her company is called Leg Up Legal, and you can be matched with mentors.
Oh, wow.
So that was really cool. I found that out just in the last couple of weeks. So yeah, definitely that's a way to find some mentors. And of course, organically, reach out to your network. I'm really, I'm thinking about opening up my own firm. Who do you, obviously it's a hypothetical, I'm staying at Toyota, but if I were...
Breaking news on the podcast,
But if I were, I want to start my own firm. Do you, I'd be like, Mary, who has done that? Is there anyone you could connect me to so I can ask some questions, who'd be willing to, right? That really is helpful too. That just organic connection.
Yeah. So we will definitely, as we round out this sort of series, and I'm so excited that you came on because I think that the more we talk about it, the more we'll put down some of the resources that Mey commented on so people can maybe, go and check those out and see if they're a good fit for them. But I think the more that we, especially female lawyers, that we talk about this, that we try to engage, that we try to help, not only is it sort of a selfish interest, it's good for you, but it also, I think, makes the profession so much more better. It's much more, I don't know, contentment will be there for a lot of people if they do this. So
yeah, I mean, I find it personally fulfilling, and I found it. Now, it certainly wasn't why I went to mentoring, but when I was a young lawyer, that was where my business came from. Right. Mentees actually didn't know any other employment lawyers. So who would they refer their friends and people to? Me, right? So that was like this natural benefit. But also there's reverse mentoring. I had one of my mentees teach me Instagram. Yeah. Right? I did not understand. I was like, another thing I have to learn.
Right.
They taught it to me. They showed it to me. Right. Someone mentioned they can show me TikTok. I don't know if I can do another thing. Yeah. But that's what I'm saying. There's also, you benefit and learn. It is a relationship, right? As much from your mentees as you put in it.
Yeah. And so they're like, put that BlackBerry down and get into the iPhone there. So like, are you on this? No, I am not, but maybe I should be. Yeah. Yes, exactly. Well, thank you so much, Mey, for coming on and talking about this. I really appreciate it. I think that's something that we should all try to do as much as we can. And we hope that you tune in to the next podcast. Thanks a lot.
Thanks for watching The Jury's Still Out. To learn more about Mary Griffiths or our guests today, check the description below. Don't forget, we'll be here every other week of the month with more incredible trial stories.